There was a truth I carried with me for years, hidden beneath layers of silence and carefully constructed smiles. It wasn't something small or insignificant. It was a part of me I feared would change everything if anyone ever knew. So I buried it deep inside, locked away in the shadows where I thought it would be safe. Living with that secret was like carrying a weight that no one else could see. It shaped how I moved through the world, the words I said, the relationships I kept at arm's length. Every time I felt close to someone, the fear of being exposed pushed me away, creating walls that felt impossible to tear down. The truth wasn't just something I hid from others, it was something I tried to hide from myself. I told myself that if I ignored it long enough, if I pretended it didn't exist, maybe it would disappear. But secrets have a way of surfacing, no matter how deeply they're buried. I remember the moment when the truth began to feel like it was going to crush me. The pressure of hiding, the exhaustion of pretending, became unbearable. I realized that living in silence was no longer protecting me, it was trapping me. The decision to reveal that truth was one of the hardest I've ever made. It meant risking judgment, rejection, and the unraveling of everything I thought I had built. But it also meant the possibility of freedom, of healing, and of finally being seen for who I truly am. When I finally spoke, it was like stepping into the light after years in darkness. The relief was immense, but so was the vulnerability. Not everyone responded with kindness, and the path forward was uncertain. But I knew that living honestly was the only way to reclaim my life. This is my confession, the story of the truth I hid from everyone, the fear that kept me silent, and the courage it took to finally speak. The weight of that secret had been pressing down on me for so long that when I finally spoke it aloud, I expected the ground beneath me to crumble. But instead, I felt a strange lightness, as if a burden I didn't realize I was carrying had been lifted, if only just a little. It wasn't an easy lightness. Saying the truth out loud made it real in a way it hadn't been before. The vulnerability was raw, and the fear of how people would respond lingered like a shadow. I braced myself for rejection, for whispered rumors, for the cold distance of those who couldn't understand. But what surprised me most was the unexpected kindness. Some people listened with open hearts, their empathy a balm to my wounded soul. Others needed time to process, their silence a space for reflection rather than judgment. And a few reacted with disappointment, their reactions stinging, but also a reminder that I couldn't control how others received my truth. Through it all, I learned that the act of revealing my secret was not just about others accepting me, it was about me accepting myself. I began to see that hiding had been a way to deny my own worth, to live in fear rather than in authenticity. The journey after speaking my truth was filled with challenges. Old fears resurfaced, doubts crept in, and healing was sometimes interrupted by moments of pain. But with every conversation, every act of honesty, I grew stronger. I rebuilt relationships on a foundation of transparency. Some bonds deepened, forged in the fire of vulnerability. Others dissolved, but their departure made space for new connections. Connections rooted in acceptance and truth. Living authentically became a daily practice. I learned to be patient with myself, to celebrate progress, and to forgive setbacks. The truth I had hidden for so long was no longer a secret, but a source of empowerment. It shaped me into someone braver, more compassionate, and more alive. The path to living authentically was neither straight nor smooth. Every day presented its own battles, old insecurities rising like tides, moments when the fear of being judged whispered louder than the voice of truth. Yet, with each step forward, I learned to stand taller, to speak clearer, and to embrace the parts of myself I once hid. I remember a particular moment that marked a significant turning point. It was a quiet evening, sitting with a close friend who had known me before the secret, during the silence, and now after the revelation. We talked for hours, not just about what I'd shared, but about life, pain, and the courage to be vulnerable. That night, I felt seen in a way I never had before, and the bond between us grew stronger. Yet, living with my truth also meant confronting those who struggled to accept it. There were times when family members pulled away, when friends whispered behind my back, when strangers' judgment felt like a weight on my chest. Those moments stung deeply, reminding me that honesty can come at a cost. But I chose to hold on to the love and support, the hands that reached out instead of pushed away, the hearts that opened rather than closed. They were the light in the dark, the proof that truth can create connection. I also discovered the power of self-love. For so long, I had tied my worth to others' acceptance, to hiding my truth to avoid rejection. Now, I began to cultivate a love for myself that was unconditional, a love that did not depend on external validation. This journey wasn't just about revealing a secret, it was about reclaiming my life from fear and silence. It was about learning to live boldly and honestly, even when it meant risking pain. Through writing, I found another outlet for healing. Pouring my story onto paper gave me clarity and relief. It connected me with others who carried their own hidden truths, creating a community of shared strength. I came to understand that everyone carries secrets, burdens, and fears. Sharing mine was not just an act of courage, but an invitation for others to do the same, to find freedom in honesty. The truth I hid for so long no longer defines me. It is a chapter in my story that brought me to this moment, a moment of peace, growth, and hope. And as I look ahead, I carry with me the lesson that living authentically is the greatest gift I can give myself and those I love. The journey of living openly with my truth brought new challenges, but it also opened doors I never thought possible. As I embraced vulnerability, I found strength in places I had overlooked. I began to see that authenticity fosters genuine connections, relationships built not on facades or secrets, but on trust and acceptance. There were days when I stumbled, moments when the old fears resurfaced and whispered doubts. But I learned to meet those fears with compassion, reminding myself that growth is rarely linear and that healing takes time. I also discovered the power of boundaries. Part of embracing my truth meant protecting my energy and choosing carefully who to share with and when. Not everyone needed to know every detail of my past or present. I learned that discretion is not dishonesty, but self-care. One of the most profound realizations came when I saw how my courage inspired others. Friends and even strangers reached out to share their own stories of hidden truths and fears. It was a reminder that vulnerability can be contagious, and that by sharing my story, I was helping others find their voices too. Through this process, I redefined what it meant to be strong. Strength was no longer about hiding pain or putting on a brave face. It was about being honest, showing up authentically, and embracing imperfection. I also learned to celebrate progress, no matter how small. Each moment I chose honesty over silence was a victory. Each time I accepted myself fully, I moved closer to peace. The truth I once hid was no longer a chain, but a key, unlocking doors to deeper self-awareness, compassion, and connection. Today, I live with an openness that was once unimaginable. I am grateful for the journey, the pain, the courage, and the transformation it brought. This confession is my story of hidden truth and brave revelation, of fear and hope, and of the liberating power of authenticity. Because sometimes, the greatest truth we can share is the one we've been too afraid to say. The more I lived my truth openly, the more I realized how much energy it freed up inside me. Carrying a secret isn't just about keeping something hidden from others, it's about the invisible weight that presses on your chest every moment of the day. When I stopped hiding, that weight began to lift, slowly but surely. I started noticing the little things, how I no longer had to calculate my words or hide parts of myself in conversations. I could laugh freely, share my thoughts without fear, and be fully present without the exhaustion of guarding a secret. One afternoon, I met with a group of people who, like me, had struggled with their own hidden truths. Sharing our stories, hearing theirs, I felt a profound sense of belonging. It was a reminder that vulnerability creates bridges, not walls. But the path wasn't without obstacles. Sometimes, old wounds reopened unexpectedly. A passing comment, a lingering glance, or a moment of self-doubt would stir the old fears. Those moments reminded me that healing is ongoing, not a destination. During those times, I leaned into self-care practices, journaling, meditation, long walks in nature. These rituals became my anchors, grounding me in the present and reminding me of my resilience. I also found solace in creativity. Writing, painting, and music became outlets for expressing emotions I couldn't always put into words. Through art, I processed pain and celebrated growth. My relationships transformed as well. Those who accepted my truth stood by me, their support unwavering. For those who couldn't, I learned to let go without bitterness. Holding on to connections that don't honor your authenticity only hinders your growth. I realized that embracing truth requires courage, not just once, but daily. It's a commitment to live honestly, even when it's hard, even when it means standing alone. Looking back, I see that the fear of revealing my truth was far greater than any consequence I faced. The liberation that came with honesty was worth every risk. The truth I hid from everyone was never meant to be a prison. It was a lesson, a teacher guiding me toward authenticity, strength, and compassion. And now, I carry that truth openly, proud of the journey it took to get here. This is my confession, a testament to the power of honesty and the courage to live unapologetically. The journey to living openly wasn't just a personal victory. It became a transformative experience that reshaped my entire understanding of connection and self-worth. I began to notice how much lighter my days felt without the constant burden of secrecy. I smiled more freely, breathed more deeply, and engaged with the world with a newfound openness. With each honest conversation, I built bridges, not just to others, but to parts of myself I had neglected. I learned that my story, no matter how difficult or unconventional, was worthy of being heard. And in sharing it, I discovered a profound sense of liberation. There were moments of vulnerability that tested me, when doubt crept in, or when I faced judgment or misunderstanding. But those moments became opportunities to reaffirm my commitment to authenticity, to remind myself that my worth was not defined by others' acceptance. I surrounded myself with people who celebrated my truth, whose love was unconditional and unwavering. Their presence nurtured my growth and provided a safe space where I could continue to heal and evolve. The fear that once held me captive transformed into a quiet courage, a courage that fueled my desire to live fully and honestly. I no longer allowed the shadows of secrecy to dictate my life or diminish my light. This confession is more than just the story of a hidden truth. It is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the transformative power of honesty. It is a reminder that our stories, no matter how deeply buried, deserve to be told, and that sharing them can lead to profound healing and connection. As I close this chapter, I carry with me the knowledge that living authentically is a lifelong journey, one that requires bravery, compassion, and unwavering commitment to self-love. And though the truth I once hid was a heavy burden, it ultimately became the key that unlocked my freedom. This is my truth. This is my story.